churches. Save our cities. Save our 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 churches.
Here to suggest to the bishop that this should be stopped, reversed. We can't afford to lose more than what we've already lost. I'm going to start with a little quote from Václav Havel, born 1936. He wrote a word or two about hope. He was for a time the president of Czechoslovakia, and he wrote this book, Disturbing the Peace, in 1991. Hope, he wrote, is not the same as joy when things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously headed for early success, but rather, hope is an ability to work for something to succeed. Hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. It is this hope above all that gives us strength to live and continually try new things, even in conditions that seem hopeless. Life is too precious to permit devaluation by living pointlessly, emptily, without meaning, without love, and finally, without hope. I'm going to read a number of short responses here, and if after each one, if my friends could please respond, that's why we still have hope.
That's why we still have hope.
It is the season of Pentecost, and gathered disciples were surprised and encouraged by the gift of the Spirit.
That's why we still have hope.
The Spirit stirred them and moved them to bring their gifts for the service of the church.
That's why we still have hope.
We have gathered in this diocese for a long, long time, and we have a lot to tell newcomers about how the Church of Cleveland was built and sustained for over 160 years.
That's why we still have hope.
Since our first meeting, we have met new faces and heard old stories. And we know that these faces and stories are the building blocks of our diocese. These faces and stories are what will sustain our church more successfully than the dollars the bishop receives from the sale of closed churches.
That's why we still have hope.
We believe it is never too late for a shepherd to learn from his sheep.
Never
And we believe Bishop Lennon has a lot to learn about the care and feeding of his flock.
A lot to learn.
We stand ready to show him the way.
That's why we still have hope.
Just today, Bishop Lennon admitted to EC President Pat Singleton that his reconfiguration plan could be flawed. We assure him that it is flawed from the start, all the way from Boston. We demand that a plan that is suspect, decisions that admittedly may be flawed, ought to be reconsidered by a shepherd good enough to be a bishop. And we can help him get it right this time.
That's why we still have hope.
We are here because we love the church. We are here because we are the church. We are here because many of our sisters and brothers in this diocese are unaware of the loss we have all endured with the unjust suppression of vibrant parishes. We are acutely aware of this injustice, and we are here because we will not go away.
That's why we still have hope.
We are living stones, according to St. Paul, and we stand here to represent the carved stone and the carefully placed stone of our beloved churches. Though they stand silent and some of them chained shut, they stand as historical landmarks, witnesses to the city at large of the faith and hope and love of parishioners who worshiped therein.
That's why we still have hope.
Revelers who celebrated the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem were told to be still, to stop celebrating. But the disciples said, even if these people were silenced, the very stones would cry out. We are here because the very stones of our sacred churches are crying out against the injustice of their premature and unwarranted closure.
That's why we still have hope.
And we are here because many elected officials appreciate the importance of sacred space in our neighborhoods. More, it appears, than does our bishop. And they have assembled with us, and they stand with us, and they raise their voice with us. And because they do, that is why we still have hope. We'd like to hear first from Councilwoman from Ward 7, Councilwoman from Ward 17, Donna Brady.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening, and thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I have a lot of faith in all of you that you are going to work very hard to keep your churches open. In my ward, we had 2 churches that were slated to be closed. Mine, St. Philip and James, which I just found out today is on the for sale list for $1 million. And the other, St. Ignatius, which along with my colleague Councilman Westbrook and the church not clustering, but the church council. We worked with the church council and we were able to talk to the bishop. Jay and I actually got an audience with the bishop, and we were able to convince him to give us 4 more years to try to prove ourselves. And right now, St. Ignatius is doing very well. If you go by there, you'll see the scaffolding. The roof is being fixed. Money is coming in. Parishioners are coming back. I want to remind the bishop that all of these churches are sacred places. They are places that were built not by Bishop Lennon, not by Bishop anybody, but by your families and my family. These churches, they may hold the deed to these churches, but they don't own these churches. They didn't pay for these churches. They didn't build these churches. Our ancestors built these churches and paid for these churches, and we are paying for these churches still today. So I stand with all of you, no matter what your ethnicity is, to say to Bishop Lennon, please reconsider. You've been to Europe, I'm sure. You won't find a closed church anywhere in Europe. You can open the door any time of the day and walk in and see all those beautiful sculptures and frescoes and stained glass windows. And one of the things this council is going to be looking at is going to be the possible landmarking of the interiors of these churches. So I stand here in solidarity with you today to say, Bishop Lennon, please do not take away our community. Do not take away our churches. Don't destroy our neighborhoods.
Thank you.